Let's talk digital strategy, specifically e-commerce. Have you got a business that sells something, anything online? Is your website, your e-commerce platform, your digital marketing and your customer service plan all up and running and top-notch? Or are you working on a, oh crap, I'm stuffed plan? There's no shame in not knowing what you don't know. That's why we have experts, right? Well, there's experts and then there's experts. Joining us today to give us some e-commerce comfort and a map to navigate the digital maze is Claudia North, co-founder of With Small Business. Welcome, Claudia.
Thank you, Angela.
So we know that there is a digital maze. We know that SMEs are not really keeping up with the demand online that's there. I mean, I think I saw some data about 60% of small businesses don't have a solid digital presence, which is very concerning. When we look at COVID right now, everything being done online, so many businesses have scrambled to catch up. So are you surprised by the lack of uptake on digital with small businesses?
Look, I think it's just a trend in that small businesses focus on the nearest thing in front of them in terms of bringing in cash flow, and they're wearing many hats. I think that COVID, I read some statistics the other day that said that the acceleration in the shift has taken us 5 years ahead in terms of e-commerce. So I think a lot of small businesses are frozen and they're scared and they're not sure, what is the next step, what should they do? And so in doing that, they freeze and don't really do anything.
Or make mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
So you've got a solid background in all things digital and marketing, etc. That was and is your world. Or how did that happen and come to the point where you've co-founded a new company called With Small Business? Not so new because you've got a solid history there and great toolkits, but we'll get to those. So how did this all happen? Because you've spent early time in the corporate world.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, long story short, my father's always been my inspiration. He was an entrepreneur, had about 100 different business ideas, of which he probably invested and worked through about 30 of those. So ever since I was a very little girl, I always wanted to be a businesswoman. So went into a business degree and found my passion in marketing. I am fascinated by human psychology, so consumer behaviour and understanding why people do things really interests me. And I'm also a bit of a geek, so I really do love data. Way back before digital was even a thing, I really focused on data and what impact would a decision, have that, I'd make in a marketing arena.
But that is marketing though. It is all about the data and numbers. It's not the pretty pictures and the TV commercials. It's always been about real information and making decisions on marketing based on what works on metrics.
Yes.
Solid evidence.
Absolutely.
But then cue e-commerce, cue social media, cue Facebook and ads, and the whole world of metrics changes.
Explodes.
It literally explodes. Okay. So if we look at digital technology, actually, let's just jump backwards. So you've had that corporate background, but you're dealing with SMEs now.
Yeah,
You've gone from having budgets to no budget.
Yeah, absolutely. I had millions of dollars of budgets, but no longer, which I really was disillusioned with the corporate environment in that they had a lot of money, they would spend it with advertising agencies. Advertising agencies were sort of all care and no responsibility, so let's spend all the budget and hope for the best kind of thing. And I also felt that, sitting in, a Commonwealth Bank strategy team and actually making a strategy and decisions, I never really saw the impact of that on the bottom line, which I found frustrating. When I had my kids, I actually came up with my own business idea and I ended up developing my own product. I manufactured it in China. I sold it into Woolworths and a number of independent businesses. I got a bit lonely because it was just me. I actually built my own website. And after 5 years, I was selling into about 5 different countries, but I was lonely and I was a bit bored. So I sold that company off, and look, 15 years later, I'm proud to say that my product still exists, and it's been sold into about 30 countries, as of today. So I really
you know what it takes to launch a product.
Yeah.
You know what it takes to do all the work yourself.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yes.
And to exit successfully.
Yeah, absolutely. But it just really taught me a lot about small business and the lack of support that they get, the lack of expertise that they can tap into because of the cost of that through digital agencies or, marketing consultants. And so my passion just really came out of working with lots and lots of small businesses over the recent years. And I really want to make a change in terms of they should have access to, the expertise. They should have access to technology, etc., just like the big players
That's right.
do.
Because online is a level playing field in terms of what's available for technology.
Yeah.
So it's not just the big guys that have access to things. I mean, you can literally build your own website now, and
Yeah.
it doesn't look like you've built your own website.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, some of the big guys spend a lot of money on those websites and they still don't work. So it can happen to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Not just us. So you've taken all that knowledge now of your corporate expertise in marketing in that data-driven world.
Mm-hmm.
You've exited successfully your own business, and now you've set up with small business,
Yeah.
a digital marketing company, and you're looking at now changing the lives of SMEs globally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that there can be little less noble cause than that. So if we look at in terms of digital technology and e-commerce, literally, I mean, it's easy to say e-commerce. I looked it up to get a better definition because it rolls off your tongue, e-commerce. But it means doing transactions online. Mm-hmm. So in order to do transactions online, it doesn't just get from there to there. It takes a framework. Mm-hmm. So tell us about this framework, because that's what you do. You've got a proven strategic framework for e-commerce growth. Mm-hmm. So what is this framework that you need to have if you are doing e-commerce and digital marketing and selling online?
Yeah. So look, having worked with so many small businesses, I realised that there's a lot of noise out there in the environment with Google and Facebook and Amazon and shopping this, et cetera, and small business owners jump from, I should be doing SEO, I should be doing email automation, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And what happens is they've got a scattergun approach and they don't really have a plan for long-term growth. Now, early days in social and digital marketing, it was easy to make money on Facebook, and everybody was getting onto Facebook because you could just make heaps of money.
I missed that.
So did I.
That bus didn't stop where I was.
Times have changed and digital is really complex and it's really hard to make money on there. And so if you're just going to follow tactics, you're never going to make it. You need to have a plan. And I know everyone's like, a strategy and a plan, and I'm going to have a big plan, I'm going to put it in the corner, I'm going to ignore it. But a plan in terms of an agile plan based on what are you prepared to invest from a money perspective, a time perspective, a resource perspective? How are you going to think about how fast you're going to accelerate to grow? So having a framework that is actually looking at that and then sticking to that, then you can choose the right tactics or the right best practices that are going to get you there based on what your objectives are and based on your framework. And so
Is a framework another word for plan? What's the difference?
Yeah, a plan is part of the framework, I suppose, in that the framework that I've developed for small businesses has what I call e-commerce foundations. I found that a lot of the foundations weren't in place for small businesses, and what they're doing is leaving money on the table. So, for example, they have a number of people coming to their website, so they've got 100 people coming to their website, and their conversion rate is only at 1%. That means they're getting one sale from that 100 people. If they just improve that customer journey on their homepage by doing one or two tactics and increase that to 2%, that doubles their revenue, and they're not doing they're not paying more media money for that, for example. So
they're not working any harder.
Absolutely.
It's not costing them any more. They've just got a better framework to manage.
That customer journey to get people through to the buying process, more simply. So
they have access to a framework via you.
That's right. So I've really built out a specialised framework for small businesses, and depending on whether they want short-term cash flow, long-term sustainable growth, or a combination of both, we basically look at the e-commerce foundations as well as growth levers, and we mix those up in a customised way that matches sort of where the business is at and how quickly they want to accelerate. That is helps them in terms of being a cost-efficient approach. So it's not about throwing money at Facebook and hoping for the best.
Cross your fingers and toes.
Yeah.
So you've got results though from this, because you take an approach, you've got processes, you simplify a lot of those processes for people. So I've spent hours reading through your material and I actually understood it, which is rare if you don't live in that world. So you've got results that back up the idea of the framework and the plan and following through. So what are those results happening for your clients?
Look, I don't usually like to put them out there because when you go on the internet these days on YouTube, everybody under the sun, even dogs and cats I see, are turning over 7, 8-figured results. But a number of clients
do this and you'll double your sales.
Oh, you'll 100,000 times them. But look, in saying that, in terms of some clients that I've worked with for a number of years that have worked through the framework and had a rational approach and had a plan and been consistent, we've gotten in a couple of years up to about sort of 25 times their monthly average revenue when I first started working with them.
So there's a solid reason there why you should have a good framework.
Absolutely.
To get good results.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and as a small business owner, you should plan and you should have a strategy. All those things are givens. If you've never done those type of things, okay, then you may have no idea, but you really do need to do that to optimize your growth and give yourself every opportunity to sell properly and again.
Yeah.
Right. So if we look at the foundations of e-commerce, and there's best practices, right? You can't really grow your business sustainably and well unless you have best practice processes in place. And when we say best practice, it's not that it's from a governance perspective when people hear that best practice. It's that this is what works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's from that angle.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you take us through some of these? And we're not going to get to all of them because we are going to run out of time, of course. But what are some of the best practices and e-commerce foundations, if you just touch on some of those points and what they are? For instance, branding.
Yeah.
Data.
Data, yeah. So in terms of branding, it's a very big topic and everybody wants to, let's go and invest lots of money and all of that into brand. It's not, I don't talk about brand in that space. I talk about brand in relation to digital and having 8 seconds or less for somebody to, identify with your brand. I talk about having a cohesive digital presence because if somebody sees you here and then somebody sees you there and the brain's going, oh, those colours were different or that font was different, the brain is actually distracted by the difference in the brand representation as opposed to what message you're actually communicating with them. So we look at brand in that context. In terms of data are the ears and eyes of our customers or of our consumers.
And we should care about that as SMEs.
I know.
Everything should be based on that. The data shows you whether you're right or wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And I must say that 90% of small businesses that I have worked with don't have their data set up in a way that's going to help them and tell them what's working and what's not working. A lot of them don't know their key performance metrics and a lot of them don't know what their conversion rate is. And I completely understand why that is because they are absolutely frantic and busy, but they are the keys to their success. And that is why I want to try to simplify e-commerce marketing for small businesses so that they can know what those metrics are and it can be easy and they can use those as guides to help them grow their business.
I know that when I've looked at your website and seen all the toolkits that you offer, and it's almost like it's like this beautiful menu in a great restaurant. There's so many things to choose from and you click on something, sort of like one of the best practices and the foundations is the 1, 2, 3 of SEO. Now, SEO has been the bane of existence of so many small businesses because they're not really sure, is it a hashtag? Is it a word? Do I have to say that word 100 times? Well, the thing is that if you click on any of the toolkits that you have and you have so many that are free, you can actually go through a step-by-step process where it all explains it to you and then you actually walk away going, I get it, I understand it now, I can go away and either tell someone, delegate it, or I love what you've said before, you'll actually know the person, if you're paying for an expert, you'll know if they're doing what they should be doing.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a way of educating yourself on information to just have some comfort in knowing that you've got some idea about e-commerce, you've got some idea about SEO, you've got some idea about, social organic content strategy. You've got an idea. You don't have to be able to do it, right? You just have to have an idea about it.
Yeah, and it's putting the control back into the hands of the small business owner because I've met so many, again, small business owners who are paying out $1,000 in SEO, for example, and they're paying somebody offshore and they're doing old practices that are actually damaging their rankings with Google because Google it changes the algorithm and they're not, they don't support hacking, tactics. And so they're actually paying out this money and it's not actually giving them return. It's actually, causing them even, less performance.
Wasting money, you're doing damage to your brand, you're not growing all these things are against you, and you may not even know that that's happening.
Oh no, that's right. They don't, because I go, well, I don't exactly know what I'm doing, but I know that everyone says I need to be investing in SEO, so I am. I'm investing in SEO.
You tick that box, but you don't know if you're necessarily doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the other thing as well. I think people have taken advantage of small business owners that don't understand, and they are, making it really complex. And so I want to lift the lid on that and make it transparent and go, here's the information. Audit it yourself, or go to your developer or your social person and start to ask them some questions so that you can actually see if they're doing the job that they say that they're doing and that you're paying for.
So there's a couple of options, and you and I have talked about this. You can either do it yourself, right? You can, as you did. You can either sit down and apply yourself and build your own website. Good luck, and do all your own SEO, etc. You could get help doing it. Mm-hmm. Someone could do it for you. Mm-hmm. Or you could actually have a combination of all of that.
Yeah.
And working with you and your team, that's the options that they get, don't they?
Yeah.
They either learn to do it themselves,
yeah,
and you supply a lot of those toolkits, or through the different membership model that you've got, they can, get some one-on-one time with you, go through that process, or hand it completely over.
Yeah, and so they're not handing it directly to us. We have basically a trusted network that executes our best practices the way we sort of outline them, because there's lots of ways to do digital marketing, and I've really focused on what do we do first, what do we do next, depending on where a business is at, so that we're meeting their business objectives. So if it's about cash flow, how do we start to get additional cash flow in now, but we're still investing in future growth.
And the right foundations.
Oh, absolutely.
And the right framework.
Yeah, that's right.
So they get results.
Yes.
Have I covered that?
Yes, you have. Good job.
Okay. And I just want to leave everyone with a quote from you. Our mission is to significantly increase the success rate of small businesses globally by 2025. And currently that's standing at 50% in 2020. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Angela.
To everyone out there in YouTube land, tell me you've subscribed. And if you haven't, press the button, or as my niece says, the bell. To Piedmont Studio, a big shout out. Thank you very much for the way we look and sound. To the SMEA Association, without you, we would not be here. If you have any comments, tips, tricks or stories, please send them straight to me. news@smea.org.au, and of course we're across all the socials. Thank you very much. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Angela.